I recently watched the new Hype House show on Netflix. Yeah, I spent 4 hours of my life doing that. The good news is there are only 8 episodes in there, each a half hour. But no, I saw that it was trending at number 1, which I am not surprised just because of the amount of followers that these kids have on TikTok. But I was surprised because I imagine that there would be people who watch Netflix over the age of 12. But apparently there aren't. Apparently it's only 12-year-olds. Sorry, not to shit on 12-year-olds, but you have a lot of power. Anyways, I just want to preface this by saying I don't really know a lot about these people. I've heard of Chase, I've heard of Thomas, I've heard of Vinny, and I've heard about Alex Warren. He ran into a lot of flack online, I think, on YouTube because he apparently copies David Dobrik. And just out of curiosity, I watched one of his videos, and I am going to jump on that train and say yes, I don't know about copy, but definitely influence. And the laugh, that dumb schoolboy laugh behind the camera. Yeah, that is 100% David Dobrik. And let's just jump right in, shall we? So, episode 1, we're introduced to every important TikToker in the Hype House, at least what this series deems important. We have Thomas, who is the leader, the manager, the self-proclaimed daddy of the group. He has 8.1 million followers. We have Vinny, who has 12 million followers, Alex, who has 17.7 million followers, Chase, who has 31.6 million followers, Mia, who has 3.7 million, Larry, it's spelled like Larry, but it's pronounced Larry, except one moment during the entire series, I think somebody says Larray. I want to say Ryland says Larray, and nobody corrects him. We have Cover, who has 13.5 million subscribers. We have Nikita Dragon, who has 14 million followers. They're followers. And then Jack, who has 8.1 million followers. I don't even know who Jack is. I have him written down in my notes, and I don't remember him even being in the docuseries at all. Cover and Alex are introduced. They're a couple. They met on Snapchat. Honestly, the way they got into a relationship seemed pretty cute and humble. But then they drive a Rolls Royce into a strawberry picking field, and I don't give a shit about that. He also mentions that he spends anywhere from $50,000 to I think $70,000 a month on his YouTube videos, which one of the biggest plot lines throughout this entire documentary is that Chase wants something other than TikTok, other than the Hype House. And that storyline is first introduced when we see that Chase is not even living at the Hype House. He's living at his own house in Encino with Ryland and, I believe, Nolan? Baron. So the Hype House is gonna throw this party, I guess, and they're wondering if they should invite Chase. And then there's this kind of snippy guy named Michael, who apparently hates Chase. And he quickly says, don't invite Chase. Don't give him the chance. They end up inviting Chase anyways. Chase is living in Encino separately because he's starting a music career and he doesn't want to drive an hour out to the Hype House from central LA every day, which is entirely understandable. And so Thomas, who is the manager of all of this, he's the one who pays the rent. He's the one who sets up brand deals with the TikTokers. And if they want to stay in the house, they're required to upload to this Hype House TikTok account with the sponsored brand deals. And so Thomas decides that he will pay for Chase's house in Encino if Chase continues to upload and contribute to the Hype House. I don't really remember what happened at the rest of the episode because it was all very expositional. Okay, we're in episode 2. Mia is Thomas's girlfriend. She has a lot to say about why Chase left, how he left, how it was disrespectful and rude. Apparently, he looked for houses in secret and then he made Thomas pay for it later in the documentary. I think Chase does confirm that though. Nikita Dragon shows up. She's not part of the Hype House, actually. She's just a TikToker. She really goes in for all of her outfits. She shows up in this, white outfit, and Larry literally says, "You look like a high-end prostitute." And I cannot help but agree. There's like a weird thing at Chase's house. There's like a dinner. Thomas is not invited. Alex is not invited. And that's apparently a sore subject. Back at the Hype House with the people who weren't invited to Chase's dinner, Cover and Alex get into a fight. Cover basically is upset that Alex is getting a piano in their room. She's upset because there's a desk that he had to put in the room for his editing, which makes me wonder just how small their room is if they can't even fit a desk with everything else. Anyways, they get into this fight, and at one point Cover says, "I don't want to be an asshole," and Alex says, "I don't think you're being an asshole, I think you're delusional for wanting bedroom space." This fight then turns into, I want my personal life to be separate from my filming life. You cannot ignore the irony of saying, I want to separate my personal life from my filming life to a fucking camera. We're back to Chase's dinner, and Nikita is kind of a pot stirrer. She's asking Chase and Charlie right in front of them if they're together, if they broke up, why they aren't sitting together. It's honestly really annoying, and I would hate being in that situation. At the dinner, they talk about cancel culture, and Nikita says the words, "You never know what people might deem offensive," as literally a graphic of a headline splays over the screen that says, "Nikita Dragun faces backlash over blackfishing." Really? Really, Nikita? You never know? You never know what people might deem offensive? And then all of their bad headlines start flashing across the screen, and I gotta say, it's pretty entertaining. Apparently, Alex destroyed his girlfriend's car, and then Nikita threw a huge party during COVID, which I'm guessing happened before the vaccine, and they each have their opinions on cancel culture. Basically, Cover and Alex say something along the lines of, you lose followers, you lose brand deals, and then Nikita immediately says, "It feels like your life is over." Which I just think they would benefit from some perspective. Especially because every one of them is still standing. Every one of them still makes videos. Every one of them is still getting money. Not one of them has been canceled. They cut to a shot of the Hype House being a complete and total mess, which that's so surprising. Who would have thought? Like 10 to 20 teenagers living in one house, that the house would be messy? What? Then we jump to another video of Alex's where he's surprising Cover with an animal to make up for the fact that he was a shitty boyfriend. Apparently he does this a lot. He brings a lot of animals into the house, one of which is a duck, and she's terrified of ducks. And so when she's blindfolded, because it's a surprise, right? The animal is a surprise. When she's blindfolded, this little asshole Michael comes in again, and he starts quacking. Eventually she opens her eyes, and it's the smallest fox in the world. It was not actually the smallest fox, it's just the smallest species of fox. It's one of those little guys. She then goes on to say, "It's a good way to say sorry." And I'm just left thinking, what happened to actually just saying you're sorry? At the end, Thomas asks Nikita why he wasn't invited to Chase's dinner. And Thomas just says that it's another example of no reciprocation between the way he treats Chase and the way Chase treats him. And he complains about how all of Chase's bad news is delivered by his manager and not Chase himself, to which I think, well, Chase is a kid. He probably avoids confrontation at all costs. And then Thomas says that he does nothing but help people, but then in the same vein, he seems to treat every interaction he has with people like a business transaction. And I get that it is a business, but when you start a business that involves children, I don't know, maybe it's not a good idea. At the end of the episode, Nikita decides to rent a gym to play dodgeball for Chase and Thomas to hash things out, I guess. And then all of a sudden, Nikita gets a call from her manager saying that something might come out about her forcing Larry to go to her party, knowing that he had tested positive, and that they're gonna blame it on her, that he went to the party because she forced him. And then we're on to episode 3. So episode 3 begins with a graphic that says production has been paused for 2 weeks following Larry's positive COVID test. The kids in the Hype House are complaining about having to stay inside of the house for 2 weeks, and I want to kill myself. So we're back in Chase's house. The interior design, by the way, is terrible. I don't know who designed this house, but they keep calling it the Cheesecake Factory, and it's true. It looks like a cheesecake factory. Thomas and Alex visit Chase at his house, I guess to confront him about why he's been so MIA. And then Thomas decides that he's going to cut Chase off, I think, which I guess means that he really is paying for Chase's house. Ryland and Nikita go to a deserted skate park, and Nikita is wearing the most ridiculous outfit to skate. Props to her, however, for completely going against skate fashion. And there, Ryland asks her why she and Larry aren't talking. So Nikita throws a dinner to celebrate the 2nd year anniversary of the launch of her brand. Everyone shows up about an hour late, and she shows up even later. She makes a joke about celebrating her virginity, and then Michael, little whore that he is, claps along and laughs like a frat boy. He also expresses his frustration with Vinny, and that Vinny doesn't want to upload any TikToks either. He doesn't want to do any social media, which is when Nikita brings up the Larry drama and starts crying at her own dinner. So at the end of episode 3, we're at the dodgeball match. Larry is denying everything. He's pretending like he had no idea that his manager or any of his team was placing the blame of him going to the party with COVID on Nikita. Larry and Nikita sit together and they hash things out, and then he apologized to her and she accepts. At the beginning of episode 4, we open again with Nikita, which really makes me wonder just how much money she put into this documentary, because we have been seeing her so much. She's driving this decked out car and she's on the phone with her mother, and I'm not gonna lie, I laughed really hard. Apparently she's in some Twitter drama with Trisha Paytas, and it kills me. She just introduces the whole fight by saying, "There's this little girl, Trisha Paytas." That is not how I would describe Trisha Paytas. Apparently Trisha tweeted something that made fun of the fact that Nikita had a show on Snapchat, and then Nikita said, 30 million views, but let me get back to my Netflix show. She immediately follows this by saying that she was taking the high road. She then says that she feels the world is against her as the camera pans on her pink Corvette. That is over 10 times the amount of money to send a kid to a 4-year state school in Texas. Back at the Hype House, Alex apparently stages a wedding for content. And for some reason, Cover's not into that. And then, as if it couldn't even get more disturbing, apparently Alex has been clickbait proposing at least 3 times. They show each clip where he pretends to getting down on one knee as if he's gonna propose, and then he ties a shoe. It's obviously taking a toll on Cover. And so he still decides to go through with this wedding, and Alex says, "I'm not really sure how Cover feels. I haven't really asked her." Yeah, maybe you should ask your girlfriend, dude. At this point, Mia says that she wishes Cover would speak up for herself, and for the first time, I agree with something Mia is saying. Vinny confronts Michael about what he said about him not wanting to make content, which he was told by Nikita, who is a fucking pot stirrer, apparently. And then Michael and Vinny get into this little fight about how Vinny doesn't contribute enough to the house. It seems like another Thomas and Chase moment, at which point you have to say, okay, they have significantly more followers than you, and if you're getting mad at them for not allowing you to eat off of their clout, maybe you should only be worried about yourself. But there's definitely a sense that they feel like they're owed. Well, I guess Thomas has somewhat of a reason to feel like he's owed, because he's literally paying for Chase's rent. And then we go back to Larry's house, who he's upset about Nikita's blackfishing. Apparently she tweeted, and I looked this up to see if it was real, because when I saw the tweet pop up on the screen, I could not believe my eyes. Apparently she tweeted, "What race is Nikita going to be today?" And then Larry decides that he's going to confront her about the blackfishing accusations. Back at the Hype House, Thomas asks Vinny how he's doing, which seems very manipulative on Thomas's part. It's like he can pinpoint the people who have the most followers and who can make him the most money. And he just really hones in on the keeping them close and wanting them to contribute to his Hype House. I mean it when I said before, every single interaction Thomas has with anybody in this documentary, with perhaps the exception of Mia, is completely transactional. He even makes a comment like, I wanted the Hype House to be like Nickelodeon or like the Disney Channel, how you can get your start here and then grow up into something great like Ariana Grande. As if Nickelodeon and the Disney Channel do not literally exploit these children for money. I don't think you can look at people like Demi Lovato or Miley Cyrus or Amanda Bynes and think, yeah, I bet they had a great time. And they've talked about how terrible it was. What I find most impressive is that Thomas is actually somehow able to frame it in the sense that he's helping them. The fake wedding continues, the wedding, and Cover is very clearly not into any of it, but she's going ahead anyway because Alex wants to and he needs good content for his channel. Alex is holding this camera in her face the entire time as, like, you know, she's walking down the aisle. He's saying his fake vows, his vows, and he says, oh, this is really fantastic content. At the wedding, Michael pees off of the edge of the cliff just to, you know, really hammer home the fact that you're not supposed to like Michael at all in this documentary. Like, seriously, Michael, what is wrong with you? After the wedding is done, Cover says that she wants to stop the bits. So the end of the episode is Nikita comes to his house and Larry then says, so what's up with all this blackfishing? And then the episode ends. And I don't understand the point of that. I really don't understand the point of ending on a cliffhanger when the next episode is going to play in literally 5 seconds. I don't even have to press a button. I just have to wait. And that's exactly what I did. Episode 5. Oh god, I'm exhausted. We're back to this little confrontation. Nikita says that her skin tone is natural, which both Larry and I at the same time went, and then Larry says, if anybody else did what you did, they would have it worse. And that Nikita gets less heat because she's transgender. And I have to say, he has a point. Because so far in the documentary, Nikita is really driving the point home that she's transgender, that she's oppressed, and that she's been through really difficult times. Those are all valid. Those are all unbelievably valid. What is not valid, however, is the right to oppress another minority or to reap the benefits of cultural appropriation. I have to say, the way Larry and Nikita speak to one another is so bizarre. I've never spoken to my friend like they're just mean. They're mean to one another. Back at the Hype House, Nikita's here again. She's not even part of the Hype House. Why is she such a big player in this whole series? Anyways, she's back at the Hype House and she asks Vinny to be glammed up, to allow her to turn him into a stripper. And can I just say, Nikita Dragun is 25 years old. She's the oldest person in this documentary. Vinny Hacker is 18 years old. It does not look good. A 25-year-old asking an 18-year-old to have some stripper makeover. And then Nikita literally asks him, how far do you want to go? Do you want just the tip? You're speaking to an 18-year-old. He's barely not a minor. So we're still at the Hype House. Thomas is really overworked and he tells the documentary people about how it's really getting to him and how he feels nobody's pulling their own weight, as it cuts to 4 interchangeable white boys whose name I can't remember and whose names clearly Netflix doesn't care about. They're like throwing a potted plant around the room. Because why the hell not? Alex meets up with his brother at a golf course, and apparently Alex's brother has a therapist. Wow, what a Marvel concept. I wonder if anybody else in this documentary could use a therapist. Speaking of, Alex then says that he acts like a kid now because he couldn't when he was a kid. And then he talks about how his mother was an alcoholic and how he got kicked out of the house when he was, I think, 17 years old, which is all very rough. It's sad, and you feel sorry for him because no kid should have to go through that. Then Alex decides to prank Michael by having his girlfriend's twin sister kiss Vinny. And when I say the next thing that happened freaked me out, I mean it really disgusted me. And they upload the video, and then there's this massive reaction to this girl, this poor girl, this twin sister, who just gets ravaged by Vinny's fans, getting death threats because they want to be the one to kiss Vinny, and she shouldn't be allowed to kiss Vinny. Which, like, oh my god, I don't think this is normal behavior. Following this, Vinny is just kind of weirded out by his fans' reaction, for good reason, and he decides that he's going to cancel this stripper thing with Nikita. Nikita arrives to the Hype House, and she's upset that Alex won't do it, even though he said to come at 1 and she came at 3 p.m. And then this unnamed white boy, I want to say Patrick, that decides that he's going to do it. Vinny has hesitation still, and then Nikita says to Vinny, I don't want to make you uncomfortable. And then she proceeds to tell him, basically manipulate him into doing it, which he does. And then it's revealed that Nikita apparently had a scholarship to go to NYU for musical theater. And if you went to NYU, like I did, this would explain so much about her personality. But at the same time, she was smart enough to not go to NYU, and I can't say the same. I didn't really think episode 5 was a good episode, but whatever. Episode 6. Thomas suggests that they go to the Joshua Tree. It's like some resort in the Joshua Tree area. Alex is depressed. I guess his past is catching up to him, but there's still no mention of him possibly seeking therapy. So the Hype House and then the Hype House 2 plus Nikita leave Los Angeles to go to Joshua Tree, and they're in 2 separate vans. It's a really interesting looking little desert resort in the middle of nowhere, where they basically all sleep in these really adorable little trailers. I thought it was cute. I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was cute, but that has more to do with the resort and their designers than it does with the Hype House. At one point, Thomas asks Alex, who do you think is going to be the drunkest tonight? And before Alex even answered, I thought Ryland, because every time he's been on screen so far in the documentary, he's talked about drinking, getting high, or sharing a bottle. And then of course, Alex says Ryland. Thomas is depressed because nobody's filming content. Mia goes off on them. She's really pissed that they're not pulling their weight, I guess. And then Larry says what we're all thinking, which is, why are you getting upset over nothing? And they do that really suspenseful like little sound effect in reality TV shows. It's like the ooh. He also mentions that he's scared of her because she's aggressive and a Leo, which if you decide to watch this series after watching this video, you should play a drinking game. Take a shot every time Larry mentions astrology. So it's the first night at this resort and they're already getting into it. There's a big fight and then the episode ends with Thomas walking to his trailer, leaving everybody else and crying. Episode 7. Ryland is drinking in his trailer because it's Ryland. And Thomas, he then walks out of the trailer and like huddles against the fence and pouts, and at which point Ryland approaches him and says the simple line of, you just need to chill, bro. Which is so true. I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but Ryland has the wisest line in this whole documentary. They all need to chill. They're millionaire 20-year-olds. They all just need to chill. Thomas then says that he wants everyone to do well. That's all he wants. To which Ryland says, they are doing well. Look at Chase. And you know what, Ryland? Apparently you're the MVP of this episode. Larry and Nikita then decide to confront Mia for the outburst from before. And then Nikita says, wow, I guess I do play the peacemaker a lot. She's like a meddler. She's not a peacemaker. Mia comes back and she immediately plants a hug on Larry and they make up. And then Mia says that honesty is really important to her because she had a really abusive father. And Larry immediately says, backs up on everything he's feeling and he says, I'm really sorry, I didn't know about that. And can I just say, there's a way to let your friends in on what you're feeling. There's one thing to open up about what you've been through, and there's another to use it as an excuse for your shitty behavior towards your friends. And that's what it feels like she's doing right now. She's just kind of saying, I'm sorry I blew up on you before. I'm just really blunt and honest because I had an abusive dad. And it all feels very manipulative. And it works because Larry immediately says, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that you went through that. They all turn in for the night. They think that the place is haunted. And they leave after one day and apparently nothing is accomplished and Thomas is upset. They stop at this other location where there are a bunch of farm animals and shit. And they decide to do this TikTok trend that I have no idea what it is, and I missed it because I'm not 12 years old. And it involves all of them standing behind Michael as he does a little dance. He, I guess, gets stage fright and he doesn't want to do it. And then Chase calls him a little baby, which is really funny. I agree. And then somebody else, Baron? Is that his name? Byron? He steps in and he does it instead of Michael. And can I just say, Netflix in this scene does them so dirty. I do not for 1 second believe that the documentarians are not making fun of them. They start off with the final TikTok product, like with the music and everything. So it like looks like a cute little trend. And then they immediately cut to the cameras filming them doing the TikTok, where like the audio is muted. It's really awkward and they're all just like silent. It goes back and forth from the TikTok to them filming it, to the TikTok to them filming it. And then at the end, a huge graphics plays over it that says 4 million views. Like, really? This shit got 4 million views. We're back in LA. We're to the beach. Alex asks Thomas if he's okay, and they basically just rehash the fact that they have their issues, they have their childhood traumas. What happens next is something that I'm gonna try not to joke about because it's really just messed up, and I don't think it's something that you should joke about. Alex and Cover go to Alex's father's grave, which, for me, personally, crosses the line into the exploitative. It's like you could see the creators learning of his background, learning that his dad died and that his mother was driven into alcoholism because of it. It's like they learned this and they thought, he's the subject. He's the one that we can paint in the most sympathetic light. It seems really messed up to film them as he's going to visit his father's grave, and I cannot believe that Alex agreed to this. I think that's also it's a personal thing, it's a private thing, and of course he breaks down in tears and Cover comforts him. And it seems like Netflix is saying, if there's any influencer we can make you care about, it's the one who with the dead dad. It feels so unbelievably manipulative because you can't watch this and think you can't form any opinion about him that's not inherently biased. And then we're back to the Hype House, and the episode ends with Thomas considering the fact that he's going to end the Hype House. And for the first time in this whole documentary, I am actually interested. Episode 8, the final episode. Thank God. Is it me, or do these teenage boys love nothing more than showing off their armpit hair? Like, is it because they can't grow a beard? What's going on? Nikita throws around the idea of throwing a prom. And this is what she says. She says, "The Hype House is my twisted little fantasy to live out my high school dream." Nikita, I think it would just be cheaper to go to therapy. And then they go to a pool at Chase's house. This time, Thomas and Alex are invited. And this is where Chase officially tells Thomas and Alex that he is going to focus on music and that he is not going to be part of the Hype House anymore. They actually respond in the most kind way. They respond like friendly, which I did not see it coming. Not when the whole series is Thomas bitching about how Chase isn't pulling his own weight in the Hype House. And then it's revealed that Thomas is okay with it because he's shutting down the Hype House. He officially has made that decision. So they prepare for prom. And might I add, some of these boys are not dressed for prom. I'm looking at you, Vinny. What is that? What is that outfit? Like you couldn't rent a tux? And of course they have a prom because just in case you forgot, these are children. Except, of course, the person who threw the prom. Everyone is surprised by what Nikita shows up in because she's not showing up just covering her nipples. She's really beautiful in the dress that she shows up with, but everyone's reaction to it is so funny. They just can't imagine that she'd wear any clothing. Alex apparently has matured over the course of 2 episodes, and he says that he's thinking about what he wants from life and what he wants with Cover. And Cover is content because apparently he's actually considering her feelings now more often. The whole series ends with Thomas basically saying that he sees why Hype House is so important, and then he ultimately decides not to end it. He teased us. That's what this whole documentary was. It's just been a huge tease. There's no meat, there's no substance. He's not going to cancel the Hype House. Until a graphic flashes on the screen that says 6 months later. The episode then cuts to what I assume is a YouTube video from Thomas's channel, in which he speaks to the camera and says that Alex, Cover, Calvin, Pat, and Papper have moved into a new house. And I guess Thomas, Mia, Vinny, Jack, and Jake, 2 people who have not been mentioned once throughout this entire fucking thing, that they are going to remain at the Hype House. And then I guess the rest, Michael was kicked out. And then that's where it ends. I have no idea how much of all of that recap I'm going to keep in here because I bored myself when I was talking about it. Let's talk about the people, the subject. I'm going to say that the people who come across the worst in the whole thing, or at least the people I didn't like that much, were Nikita. This documentary focuses way too much on her, and she's not even in part of the Hype House, and she just seems like a meddler, and she's like totally full of herself. They all are. You know what? I take that back. They're all full of themselves. She really doesn't seem apologetic in any way surrounding her controversies. Thomas really, there's only so many times you can say, I'm a helpful guy, I just want to help them, before you say, maybe a helpful guy wouldn't have to say that he's a helpful guy every 5 seconds. He's obviously managing the house, and they are, for lack of a better word, his employees. I mean, he's paying for their rent, he's letting them live free there, in exchange for their work, for them to upload TikToks to the Hype House channel. And there's only so far you can blend the line between business and friendship. It's why most bosses aren't friends with their employees. I didn't like Alex, at all. But I started off the documentary not liking him, and I ended it still not really liking him. In the first episode, they go to a strawberry field, and they get on a tractor, and he asks the driver, how much does one of these cost? And the tractor driver says anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000. And Alex immediately says, I'm gonna get a tractor, which I'm not one to tell anybody how they should spend their money, except that I am, and you should spend it helping people. Michael, I didn't really like very much. I think Netflix had a really fun time making him look like an asshole. and it worked. I had no idea who he was before this, and I'm definitely not gonna check him out now. Mia, they definitely did not paint in a great light. She's just angry all the time, it seems. There are a few moments where she's happy with anyone. Which brings us to who I consider to be the MVPs of the documentary. Chase was one of them. At no point during it all was I thinking, you know what, Thomas has a point. Because all I was seeing was Chase wanting to start a music career, wanting to grow past TikTok, and other people getting pissed at him for it. If that opportunity arises and it's something you want, then you should take it. And I think any true friend would accept that for Chase, and they'd be happy for him. But they weren't. They were just thinking about themselves and how much they would be out if he didn't do what they wanted, basically. I also think Kover comes across very well in this documentary. She puts up with a lot of shit with Alex. I don't know how much she gets back. I mean, she seems like a sweet person. Vinny, I actually felt sorry for. I never thought I would feel sorry for him because he's probably the most attractive one in the entire group, and he knows it, and he's obviously just posting videos of him shirtless. But then that makes me think about all of the men in this world who are so pissed off that female streamers can get away with playing video games in a bikini. At which point you have to say, is it the women's fault, or is it the fact that men drive the market for that kind of thing? And so I think it's very similar with Vinny's situation. He knows what works, he knows how to make money, and he uses it. Plus all of the stuff about him saying that he could never really have a girlfriend, or at least have a girlfriend publicly, otherwise his fans will just destroy her life. That's really fucked up. Yeah, all the people in this documentary that I'm supposed to feel sorry for, I really don't. I've been watching Cobra Kai recently, which I might make a video about Cobra Kai because I think it's cute. It's really corny, but it's fun. There's a line in Cobra Kai where one of the characters says, everybody has shit, everybody has a past, but it doesn't give you the right to act like an asshole. And that's the truth. Every single person on this planet has struggles, has things that they're struggling with, but not every single person on this planet has the amount of power that these teenagers have, or the amount of money. And so it's obvious that the filmmakers really wanted to paint them in a sympathetic light when they talked about their present day issues, the stuff that they're struggling with currently. That was the most compelling part of the whole thing. So those are my thoughts. Did I learn anything while watching this? Not at all. Am I better for it? No, I don't think so. If anything, I'm just a little bit more cynical. As somebody who's not a fan, it was just boring. It was just dramatic and drawn out and depressing. There was no lightness in any of it. I will say that the best thing about the whole documentary was when they were doing their individual interviews inside of an old abandoned bus. I thought it was a really clever way to remind you that these are children that we're talking about, that we're watching, and the fact that it was an old abandoned bus too, just kind of, you know, it's poetic in a way that I didn't think poetry would hit this documentary or this group of people. Also, and I can't express this enough, nothing really happened in it. Not one thing happened. Does it need to be a documentary? No. Did anybody ask for this? No. And you know who has the last laugh? Not me, because I watched the whole thing. I spent a whole Saturday watching the Hype House documentary on Netflix. And now I'm gonna spend a whole Sunday editing the video. So tune in next time when I watch the D'Amelio Hulu series. Oh, I can't do that. Follow me on TikTok if I'm not canceled on TikTok.